Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today at the Empower Series. My name is Clifton Johnson. I'm the founder of the Empower Series Incorporated, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization brought to you by the generous donations of Comerica Bank, AE Media Group, and our viewers in the United States and around the world. So thank you for joining us. If you want to find out more about the Empower Series, definitely connect with us on social media. You're on YouTube now, so definitely like us, share us, make comments, and whatever you do, do not keep us a secret. You can check out our website at www.empowerseries.com. There you can find out more about what we do, how we deliver hope, inspiration, education, and connect you to the critical resources to help you achieve your goal. You can also look in the top left-hand corner and click donate. We want to thank you for the donation of your time, your talents, and your treasures. So definitely your donations are greatly appreciated. And today's topic is going to be on entrepreneurship. It is very important that we talk about this topic, and there's a lot of information to cover. We can never cover enough within the short time that we have. So that's why below this video in the description sections are links to additional resources, downloads, and things that you can do to stay connected and get the resources you need. So our guests today, we have multiple guests actually. So our guests, plural, today will be several people from the Small Business Administration and the resource partners that they use to deliver their services to the local communities throughout the United States. So I'm going to introduce all of our guests at once, and then I'm going to talk to each one of them and give them the opportunity to talk about their services, the best way of utilizing them, some examples of successfully using their services, and more importantly, the way to stay connected to their individual organizations and the organization that is located in the community close to where you live. So our first guest is going to be Ahmad Goree. He's the lead economic development specialist for the Small Business Administration. He actually works for the Dallas-Fort Worth district office here that services 72 counties within the state of Texas. And then we have tee.rowe, who's the president and CEO of the American Small Business Development Center. They are the organization that networks with over 1,000 other small business development centers throughout the United States, and he'll tell you more about that. We also have two representatives, Stan.booth, who's with the Dallas Score. He's a mentor and he's an expert when it comes to e-commerce and website audits. And we have David.sperry, who is the chairman of the Fort Worth Score here in Texas. We also have a representative from Michigan, the great state of Michigan. Her name is Shantae Dixon. She's the program manager and she works with the Great Lakes Women's Business Council. And lastly, but not least, we have Patrick Alcorn. He is the director of the Veterans Business Outreach Center at the University of Texas at Arlington. So I want to thank all of the guests for spending a portion of your life with us today and really pouring into the Empower Series community. I want to first talk to Ahmad Goree. Ahmad, again, is the representative for the Small Business Administration, the U.S. Small Business Administration. And I want to talk to you, Ahmad, about the services that you guys offer, how you partner and collaborate with resource partners, and the best way for people to actually utilize your services. So welcome, Ahmad. Welcome back to the Empower Series, I should say, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is my second time on the Empower Series. So most importantly, thank you again for inviting me and allowing SBA to share this platform with you and your viewers. So we definitely appreciate that. So I work with the U.S. Small Business Administration, which is a federal agency that was created in 1953 with the sole purpose of helping people either start a business, if they have a business, taking that business to the next level, and most importantly, making sure that those businesses stay successful. So this is your only federal agency that's dedicated for that purpose. And what's great about it is the individuals and the citizens of the United States pay for these services with their tax dollars. So in turn, these services are offered at no cost to you. So we definitely encourage those individuals who either are looking to go into entrepreneurship, who are already in business, to utilize every SBA resource that is out there. We have a wealth of programs to help with those particular needs. What we call them the 3 C's. First are our capital programs. These are our loan programs where we have various products to help individuals either start their business through our micro lending, which goes up to $50,000. And then we have our traditional lending, which is under our 7A loan program, the number 7 and letter A, and also our 504 lending program. These are larger loans. These loans go up to $5 million. But what's great about these loans is we guarantee them through banking institutions. So any loans $150,000 or less, we guarantee 85%. Any loans over 150,000, we guarantee 75%. So what does that mean? That means that banking institutions are more willing to take on that risk of giving that loan because the government has it backed with that guarantee. So you're more likely to get the financing that you need to either grow that business by purchasing equipment, purchasing real estate, or just using it as operating capital to pay your employees or your day-to-day operations of your business. We also have export loans that help individuals export their products overseas. If you're only doing business in the United States of America, you're only doing business with 5% of the world's purchasing power. So there's 95% of other purchasing power outside of the US borders, and we help you explore those opportunities through our export programs and our export lending programs. The second C is our counseling programs, and you have a wealth of resource partners that are on this conference tonight that's going to talk about the very impactful services that they provide. So we have small business development centers, we have SCORE chapters, we have women's business centers, we have veterans business outreach centers, and something new that we have, a part of the American Rescue Plan, are our community navigators. And all of these resources are provided at no cost. They are your own professional consultants to help you navigate through the challenges that entrepreneurship brings, but making sure that you're successful in your entrepreneurship endeavors. We also have our contracting programs, that third C. So let's say, for instance, you're doing business already. You have a product or a service, but you want to expand that reach of selling your product or service. So we help you get connected with federal agencies through our contracting programs to help you sell your product or service through the government procurement process. The federal government is the largest procuring entity in the world, spending $500 billion a year in purchasing things. And what's great about the SBA is we make sure that small businesses get access to 20% of all those procurement opportunities. So we have a wealth of programs, a wealth of initiatives. I could be here all day and all night talking about them, but those are just the gist of them, Clifton. I'll be more than happy to stay back and answer any specific questions about any of our programs.
Yeah, I mean, you said a mouthful. I'll tell you this, most people are familiar with the SBA, Small Business Administration, but I talk to people all the time, and when I ask them about SCORE or the Small Business Development Center, or even VBOC or the Women's Business Center, they say, what? The resource partners? What are those? And so I really want to give each one of the resource partners an opportunity to do exactly what you did, Ahmad. I want you to be able to talk about what you do, the services you provide, and possibly the best way for people to tap into your services and use your services. So first, I'm going to talk with tee.rowe. tee.rowe, again, is the CEO and president of the Americans, or the Americas, I should say, Small Business Development Center. So tell us more about what you guys do and the best way for people to utilize your services, T.
Well, SBDCs there's 62 networks located nationwide. We have over 1,000 locations and over 4,000 dedicated professional advisors nationwide. And when I say nationwide, we are literally in every state, though there are 4 networks in Texas and 5 in California, but we're also in the Virgin Islands, in Puerto Rico, the District of Columbia, and out in the Northern Marianas and Guam and American Samoa. And for over 40 years, we've been providing all sorts of technical assistance services to small business owners. And we operate out of host institutions, primarily colleges and universities, but where we're actually located is in your community. So we might be at the public library in, say, Boulder, Colorado, or the East Los Angeles Initiative, or the Hispanic Chamber in Silicon Valley. So we're out in the communities, but the point of our program, the point of small business development centers, is to bring that knowledge from the colleges and universities and the practical experience of our business advisors, most of whom have been entrepreneurs themselves or been involved in small business lending or something like that, and bring that experience to small businesses. And you talked about finding us. The easiest way to find us is to just go to americassbdc.org on your website, though each of our networks has a website. So you'll find the Southwest Texas SBDC, in San Antonio, or the Gulf Coast SBDC out of Houston. Uh, we're located there in your communities. And the thing about SBDCs, what we work on is helping small businesses at all stages of their development and making sure that we're developing a real long-term relationship. We like to focus on spending time, sometime over years with small businesses. About a good rule of thumb is our clients are about 60% existing, 40% startup. And about 50% of our clients are actually women, and 10% of them are veterans. And all of it is so that we can provide them every year. It's about 1.5 million hours of counseling and training to about 500,000 small business owners every year.
Okay.
And
So
we cover
the question,
everything.
so I understand that you guys do training.
Yes.
You also do counseling, and you have a long-term relationship, and you give them advice. So a couple of things is that you work with for-profit organizations only, though, and not nonprofits. Is that correct?
Unless the nonprofit has a specific small business purpose,
Okay.
we will only work with a for-profit small business. We're always working on that with SBA because we want to be careful to help out, for example, a healthcare, or not a healthcare provider per se, but say a daycare. A lot of them are not for profit, so we're always working with SBA to say, can we help these folks? They're really a small business. It's just the way they're set up. That's kind of a a legal quandary, I guess is how you'd put it.
And so it's very important, again, that people realize that your consulting services are free.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And most of our training is free too.
Yeah, or very low cost.
Or very low cost, $10, $20. And that's really just to make sure people register and show up.
Well, T, I want to come back to you. I want you to think about an example of someone who actually utilized the services as a case study, and so that people can really see an example of the success of utilizing your services. So thank you.
Sure.
Now I want to talk about SCORE business mentoring, and we have two representatives. We have Stan Booth, and we also have David.sperry. So David, you are the chairman of the Fort Worth SCORE chapter. Why don't you tell us about what services you guys offer and the best way for people to utilize your SCORE business mentoring services?
Yeah, Clifton, no, thanks for the opportunity. And Stan and I, we're colleagues, and we're right next to each other. And there is a lot of cross-pollination that goes on between our two chapters. In fact, SCORE's got a new saying called One SCORE, where they're encouraging local chapters, of which there's 260 of them in the country and about 10,000 volunteers, to actually interact more, because just in the SCORE chapter, we have about 60 volunteers and a wide range of expertise. In fact, it'd be hard to find some form of expertise that we don't cover. And we have all of our services, all of our people are volunteers too. So these are all volunteers. We volunteer our time to help people. I like to say, start, grow, save, buy, and sell businesses. And we also put on workshops, so we have our volunteers could be workshop presenters, mentors, volunteers, subject matter experts, and we're always looking for more volunteers along with mentors. So anyway, I mean, that's in a nutshell what we do. The best way, and Stan's going to comment here because I'm sure I've missed something, but the best way to get a hold of us, either one of us, is through our website. Ours is fortworth.score.org. And I would encourage people to do two things. Number one, I'll talk about how to get a mentor, but at the opening page, you can also put in your email address and you'll get notices and you'll be on our mailing list for all of the workshops that we put on. And then you can get in and click on find a mentor and then go through the process. You can look at the backgrounds of our mentors and try to select one, or you can work with our local intake coordinator, and she'll help you to get a good match with a potential mentor. So, Stan, what did I miss?
Sure, no, nothing much. I think you covered it well. And as Dave said, there are about 10,000 of us across the country. I've been mentoring for 8 years now, and it is extremely rewarding. We give up our time. SCORE was originally the service corps of retired executives, but we have a lot of younger people today that will also come in the way I did, really, although not young, but came in and would give them a half a day or a day a week. So the main advantage of dealing with us is that you're dealing with practical business people, pretty much who've been there, done that, seen what the problems are, and can help you develop. And about probably close to 80% of our clients are startups. So it's always the opportunity to sit down and go through the basics of a business plan and help you to decide whether or not, firstly, this is likely to be profitable. And secondly, when you really think about it, is this something you really want to do? Because entrepreneurship is not easy. And I've been in Texas about 30 years. Haven't learned to talk Texan yet, but I'm fixing to. And I must say it's been extremely rewarding for me to give back to the community. I'm proud to be a member of the community.
Well, I want to thank you guys both. And I'll tell you that one of the things that the Empower Series believes is that there are resources within reach to help people take that next step to achieve their goal. And I say that's within reach because we all have the capacity within us to achieve whatever we envision. But more importantly, local communities have professionals like yourself who are willing to volunteer and pour back into the community, and organizations through the resource partners of the SBA to really help people take those strategic steps to achieve their goal if it's owning a business. I've actually used the Small Business Development Center resources, attending classes to understand how to set up an organization and get advice around my consulting company, which is for profit. And then also I've utilized SCORE to go to a number of training classes in person, but also on your website, there's on-demand training as well. So there are some overlapping, and I have a mentor through SCORE. So I've utilized both of your services. Even though there's some overlapping, I really would encourage people to explore and access both. Find out, what organization provides the Small Business Development Center resources within your local community, and then also find out where SCORE is, and just dig in and get what you can get from them. The third person I want to introduce now is Shantae Dixon. She's the program manager for the Great Lakes Women Business Council. So Shantae, tell us a little bit more about what you do, the overall, WBC, and the best way for women to utilize your services.
Yes, thanks for having me. So I want to speak about the Women's Business Centers. The Women's Business Centers is part of a national network of 140 centers across the nation. 49 states and Puerto Rico all have at least one Women's Business Center. And as I mentioned, we're 140 strong and growing. Last year in 2021, we had a great boom with our Women's Business Center. We had launched 24 additional Women's Business Centers just to address the unique needs that the fastest growing segment in small businesses have, which are women. It's the fastest growing segment. And the Women's Business Centers is a cooperative agreement that the SBA has with nonprofit organizations such as Great Lakes Women's Business Council. There are also partnerships with universities as well as HBCUs and other community organizations. But again, our focus are all geared toward assisting women-owned businesses, the unique challenges that women have from start to growth, as well as scaling those businesses. So all of our women's business centers have similar missions. We provide one-to-one counseling, training, and most of us provide mentoring as well. Now, the Great Lakes Women's Business Council, it's hosted our Women's Business Center is hosted by this organization is really unique. We have a great advantage because our organization started off as a loan program. So it is I want to say a capital-led organization. Before there was a micro loan program, we existed. The organization started in 1984. So a lot of the groundwork that was done for the micro enterprise industry and micro lending, our organization was very instrumental in helping to shape those policies. But it was all geared toward uplifting and supporting those individuals, such as minorities, as well as women and others who are underserved with accessing capital. And we are now an SBA microloan intermediary. So we provide the microloan program that Ahmad spoke of earlier, which provides individuals with capital amounts up to $50,000. But we're also a CDFI, so a community development financial institution. So we have other financial instruments to assist, again, those individuals who are typically not bankable with accessing capital. And the CDFI designation helps us to be a little bit more flexible with our lending. The SBA has certain regulations and rules in place that are necessary to manage that loan, but the CDFI helps us to maybe be able to provide smaller loan amounts. Someone may just need enough for some working capital, all the way up to $200,000. So we have different loan programs. So our programming in our Women's Business Center is not all, but it's also geared toward not just helping individuals to get the loan and pay the loan back, but to really be successful in helping them with their cash flow and helping them to really advance into the mainstream so they can be bankable. Another unique designation that we've been a Women's Business Center, probably not since the beginning, but very shortly since the Women's Business Center program began. We've been a Women's Business Center for 26 years. So we've been doing this work and just really understanding the unique needs. And we've also helped to shape some of the policy that comes forth for women. And then we are also a regional providing organization for the WBE certification. So individuals can come to our organization, they can get capital that may be difficult to access. They can definitely strengthen their capacity through our counseling and our training. And then they can also have access to opportunities in the private sector through that WBE certification. So we provide the WBE certification for the state of Michigan and Indiana, and more than 1,400 women have been certified. And that provides them access to opportunities with corporations who want to do business with women as well as minorities. And that has been very successful and has helped our women to scale and be able to create opportunities for others. And it has shown that women who come through and are able to get certified, their revenue amounts are a lot larger because they have that greater capacity. So our programming is all geared toward that. We also assist them with our Michigan district in getting the WOSB so they can participate in those federal contract opportunities as well. So that makes our Women's Business Center very robust because people come to us with different needs and we try to be that one stop to assist them at wherever and meet them wherever they are. And that has worked well, but we don't do this work alone. We have a vast network as well of other organizations that have a similar mission. We work and partner with our local SBA resource partners as well, such as VBOC, SBDC score, and our Michigan District SBA to really make sure that we assist our women and help them to become stronger. So we provide, again, one-to-one counseling, training. We do it live as well as on our online portal, which is called our Michigan Women's Marketplace, which is sponsored by Comerica Bank. So thank you. Comerica helps to sponsor that platform so we can do on-demand and live trainings. And also we have a mentoring program as well. We recently launched this initiative in 2019. And unlike SCORE, it's not one-to-one mentoring, it's group mentoring, peer-based mentoring. So it's usually paired by an advanced woman business owner who have excelled and who've broken past the $1 million mark. Many of them are well beyond $1 million mark. And they are able to pour into a group, a cohort of like businesses. We started out being industry specific, and now we've opened up to where they're mixed cohorts because there's value in understanding different perspectives on how different business types can resolve the same problem, but how it manifests in different areas. So that's been really successful and has really helped change the game during the COVID-19 pandemic, because 1 out of 5 of our women, when we surveyed at the beginning of the pandemic, did not think they would be able to survive the end of the year. And 82% were able to pivot during that period of time. And 79% were also able to access those federal recovery resources, such as the PPP and EIDL. So that is our Women's Business Center in a nutshell. So we try to hit all the C's: capital, capacity through our counseling and training, and contracts.
Yeah, and you can see probably, the overlapping with the Small Business Development Center, the counseling they provide, the SCORE mentoring, and then with the Women's Business Center, it sounds like you guys are really hands-on. So a lot of times when you go to one organization, you get guidance, but you got to put forth that sweat equity. And if you don't have money, that's not a requirement. But what is a requirement is you put forth the effort and the sweat equity to get the information that you need and do the work. And you guys provide the guidance and the hands-on work to make sure that people are successful. If they just have an idea and they want to build a business, or to your point, if they want to scale and grow their business. And you can also tell too that as citizens, you can go to any organization. Your organization, Shantae, is more on women, focused on women, but also each organization probably has some services for veterans as well. Would that be true? So veterans can use all of these services, but the fourth resource partner is the Veterans Business Outreach Center. And I'm going to introduce Patrick Alcorn now. He's the director of what we call VBOC and at the University of Texas at Arlington. But this is one location, but as Ahmad said, there are a number of veteran business outreach centers throughout the United States. And Patrick, I want you to take a moment to talk about the services that you provide, as well as the other VBOC centers throughout the United States.
Thank you, Clifton. So, U.S. military veterans and military spouses deserve to live the American dream of small business ownership. And the SBA recognized that from the very beginning. So when the SBA was founded at that time, almost 50% of those servicemen and women transitioning out of the military started their businesses. And the SBA was founded to support those folks that were transitioning out of the military after World War II to get those businesses up and running. It was founded right alongside of SCORE, and the SBDCs came along and so on and so forth. And all that was created because the federal government recognized that veterans are more than just warriors on the battlefield, that they're actually warriors in businesses beyond the battlefield. And as a result, in 2012, the Office of Veterans Business Development was initiated to take that one step further. And out of the Office of Veterans Business Development came a series of what we call Veterans Business Outreach Centers. And my office is, as you mentioned, is located at the University of Texas at Arlington. We're responsible for helping military-connected entrepreneurs in Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas, but there are 22 organizations just like mine nationwide. And we cover over 200 military installations all across the U.S. and some outside of the continental U.S. Now, our primary directive is to increase the awareness of SBA resources and SBA resource partners, and then to facilitate access to those resources. We do that primarily through what's known as the Boots to Business program, which is a 2-day introduction to entrepreneurship course where we're actually on military installations, working directly with those servicemen and women who are 18 months or so in transition, getting ready to get out of the military. And we help them to understand that starting a business and self-employment is a viable option for them. And we do that through that 2-day course, which is taught in 8 basic modules. But beyond that, once they come out of that 2-day course, they have an opportunity to extend that training and dive deeper. The 2-day course is a foundational course. We introduce them to all the foundational information they need to know to understand what's involved in being self-employed and owning their own business. But beyond that, they can go into a 6-week course, which comes out of Mississippi State, where they dive in deep. So they dive in deep into the business plan. They dive in deep into market research. They dive in deep into access to capital. They dive in deep into marketing. They dive in deep into all of the things that we talk about in the 2-day course. They spend 6 weeks diving in deep with the goal of coming out of that 6 week with a pitch deck that they can then go and have a conversation with a lender or an investor. Now, one of the things that the VBOCs pride ourselves on is we're probably one of the most collaborative resource partners within the SBA community, just because of how we're structured. Because of our role on the military installation, some of the VBOCs get involved in the counseling. Some of the VBOCs get involved in the access to capital. Some of the VBOCs get involved in the government contracting. But we all are surrounded by resource partners like SCORE and SBDC and Women's Business Center. And my center is in a unique place because I've got SCORE Fort Worth just 7 miles to my west, and I've got SCORE Dallas 7 miles to my east, and I've got SCORE up in Denton 7 miles to my north. I've got the Women's Business Center 5 miles to my east. I've got the U.S. Patent and Trades Office 5 miles to my east. I've got SBDC Fort Worth 5 miles to my east, and I've got 5 miles to my west, and I've got SBDC Dallas 5 miles to my east. So I'm surrounded by all of the resource partners. And so we constantly make referrals, and we let our community know how to utilize these resources. You mentioned earlier, Clifton, that when you're out in the community, everybody's heard of the SBA, but they're not overly familiar with the resource partners. I would add a little more strength to that and say the SBA is probably still one of America's best kept secrets. And we're doing our part to really get out there and let folks know. When you think about where we are right now in the pandemic and in this coronavirus environment, a lot of the businesses that were struggling and now had to establish relationships with the SBA, those relationships could have already been in place. The Office of Disaster Assistance has been there since the very beginning, right? Yeah. And so now folks are just now connecting to the Office of Disaster Assistance. But through our office at the Veterans Business Outreach Center, we've always connected our veterans to all of the SBA resources. So they're very familiar with the Office of Disaster Assistance. They're very familiar with Women's Business Center and SCORE and SBDC. A great example is one of our clients, Tamiko Bailey of Bailey Enterprises. Bailey Services. She came to us as an existing business owner, as a veteran, Air Force veteran, and a military spouse, was not aware that there's a unique program in government contracting called Veterans in Procurement Program, which is located in Montgomery County, Virginia. It's a special 4-day boot camp that veterans and military spouses can attend to increase their visibility and increase their role in the government and federal marketplace. Tamika Bailey attended that particular boot camp. It's a 4-day boot camp, and came back and went from doing just over $3 million in revenue. And that following year, when she came back from VIP, she did a little over $11 million in revenue, and she's continuing to grow. She went from being just the CEO of her company to being recognized by Fort Worth Business Press as a CEO for all of Tarrant County. She went from being recognized by her local magazine to being recognized in a national magazine as a CEO in the boardroom for Diversity Women's Magazine. And these are the type of things that our veterans do. Our office, when you look at what's going on with veterans, we host a conference every year in October connected to National Veteran Small Business Week, and it's called the Business Beyond the Battlefield Conference. And the whole purpose of that conference is to bring together all of the resource partners, SCORE, SBDC, Women's Business Center, Procurement Technical Assistance Center, all the resource partners and bring them into the same environment with the military connected entrepreneur community to really connect them and let them get to know who are their local resources and what services are available through those local resources. So we have 3 days of training, which includes access to capital training, government contracting training, marketing and marketing research, so on and so forth. And again, the way that the community really looks at us is they look at the VBOC, they say VBOC is the score for the military connected entrepreneur community. Gotcha. VBOC is the SBDC for the military connected entrepreneur community. VBOC is the Women's Business Center for the military connected entrepreneur community. And at the same time, we send them from the VBOC to those very same resources to continue to get more and more support. In the end, I'll close by saying this. One of the reasons why the SBA is so staunch about making sure that the VBOCs exist and these programs exist is when you look at the numbers. 2012 research showed a little bit better numbers. 2020 census data is coming in now, so the numbers are down some, but the numbers are still significant. Veterans represent a little more than 6% of all U.S. small businesses. Used to be 9%, it's about 6% of all U.S. small businesses. Veterans contribute more than $1.1 trillion to the U.S. GDP. That's veteran-owned businesses contribute more than $1.1 trillion to U.S. GDP. They pay more than $5.8 billion every year. They hire more than 5.8 million employees, and they pay more than $210 billion every year in annual payroll. That's the impact of businesses that are owned by veterans and military spouses. So veterans are more than their incapacities. Veterans are fully capable of helping the U.S. economy grow, and that's the purpose of the Veterans Business Outreach Centers.
So I want to thank all of you for what you do, because you guys just touched on the tip of the iceberg, and we can talk for hours on each one of the resource partners in the SBA to make sure that people understands how to use and access the resources and the services you provide. But what we want to do, the last question I'll ask, and I'll start with you, Ahmad, is with everything being said, definitely I want all of you guys to come back and we'll do a showcase just on your organization, the Small Business Development Center, the Women Business Center, SCORE, VBOC, as well as the SBA. But with you, Ahmad, what would be your advice to someone who's listening as like a closing comment, and then the best way to follow up and get in touch with either you or the SBA district office in their territory?
Yeah, I think the main message that I think everyone should get from tonight is to utilize the resources that are in front of you. We talked a great deal about the amazing work that each resource partner is doing, and that is real. 8 out of 10 small businesses fail within their first 18 months simply because they're not prepared and they just don't know what they're getting into. So utilize those resource partners so you could be guided, you could be mentored, and you could be effectively and efficiently consulted on whatever entrepreneur endeavors you're seeking, whether either starting that business or growing that business. So be prepared. When COVID-19 hit, businesses were just not prepared when it came to getting ready to access these various COVID relief programs that were out there: Paycheck Protection, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, even the Shut Up Venue Operator Grant Program. We just saw businesses that just didn't have their financials together. They didn't have their businesses structured the way they should have legally been structured. So utilize these various programs, because you don't know when and where you may need these particular services that the government offer. And we want you to be able to take advantage of what your tax dollars are paying for. So definitely utilize these resources to get prepared and be prepared in the instance that something goes wrong within your business. The best way to reach SBA is to go to sba.gov. And we have a tab called Local Resources, where you can find your local SBA office as well as your local resource partners. And you can sign up for your local newsletters and events and activities. You can reach me via email at Ahmad, ahmad.goree, Goree, at sba.gov. I am in the Dallas-Fort Worth district office. However, if anyone nationally has any questions about SBA, definitely feel free to reach out to me and I'll get you connected to your local resource. And again, Clifton, thank you so much for allowing SBA to share this platform. We really appreciate it and look forward to coming back.
Well, man, again, my appreciation goes to you and everyone about spending your time here. A gentleman by the name of Dr. George Fraser says, hey, we can all count up how much money we have, right? Just give me a spreadsheet, I can count that up, but we can never count how much time we have. And we probably don't want to, but the entrepreneurial question is, what do you do with the time that you have left? And I want to appreciate you guys spending your time here because you're pointing to the community and you're really helping everybody else who has this idea and just kind of wondering, can I bring this idea to life? You're giving them hope, right? And this program is about inspiring people to take action, educating people, and staying connected to the resource that will help them take their next step to achieve their goals. So Ahmad, thank you for your time with us today. I'm going to go to each one of the other resource partners and give you an opportunity as well, starting with UT, to share with the community what your closing comment would be, what your advice to an entrepreneur, and then how to stay connected with your organization or any of the organizations in their local community.
My advice would be really simple. Reach out, look for these resources, look for SCORE, look for women's business centers, look for the VBOC if you're a vet, look for the SBDC, avail yourself of this assistance. The other place you can look is we have a website, a partnership that we developed with SBA and the Women's Business Centers. It's called covid-sb.org. You can go on there and there's a resource locator so you can find your nearest SCORE chapter or Women's Business Center or SBDC or VBOC. And you can find all those resources there. And you can also find useful articles and then follow on to other training from all the resource partners. But I would say, I know in the last year or so, we've had 18,000 startups at the SBDCs, which is an amazing number in a pandemic. The opportunity is out there. But you know, it's much easier if you get some help.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Because you're not alone, right?
That's right.
Nothing of significance can ever happen when you're by yourself. It takes a team. Right. So again, T, thank you for responding to my request.
Thank you, Clifton.
And spending your time. I know you hadn't heard about the Empower series, but now you know, right? Now you know.
Now I know.
Okay, well, thank you. Hey, Dave and Stan, what would you say as advice to someone who's watching today and the best way of staying connected with you?
Well, I think number one, the group of us has demonstrated clearly that there's a lot of resources available to you at no cost to help you with your business. I mean, if there's one takeaway they take away from this conversation, that should be it. The other thing, as far as how to effectively use us, I would say don't think of us as a one and done conversation. Think of us, we have clients that have been in the system for years. We have, we've instigated a couple of new programs I'll talk about. So we can also bring in other mentors, subject matter experts in downstream conversations. We've started a program, two different programs, one around being an advisory council for businesses that are up and running. That's a way for us to have a longer term with multiple mentor relationship with some of our long-term clients. We've also just started a program. We call it if you want to buy or sell your business, and all of a sudden we have some clients that have an opportunity to buy a business. There's a group of us that have experience with that. They can step in and help them evaluate a business or get their business ready and set up to sell. So don't think of us as a short-term relationship. We're much more of a long-term relationship.
Thank you. Would you add anything to that, Stan?
Absolutely. The main factor is just to use what's available. If you do look for SCORE, put mentors on the end of it on Google. Otherwise, you end up with the local sports scores. But,
great advice. Great advice.
yeah, but all jokes aside, there's a tremendous amount of information, and the Dallas Score website also has downloadable material. We're now getting several hundred hits a month on that page, where people are not even potentially looking for a mentor, but they can go there and download templates of business plans, break-even point analysis, and in general information on how to start a business. And all that information is available nationwide. So score.org is the main website. And as Dave mentioned earlier, you can type in your zip code and it will direct you. You can also scan the full 10,000 mentors for help by keyword. So you're looking to sell a business or buy a business or marketing or whatever, you can scan across that 10,000 group and find somebody that you can then contact direct. So it's very broad, but certainly use the facilities. We have, in fact, I had one client this week that is on his third business with Score. The first two didn't make it, or he cut their throat before it went to market, but he's now on his third proposal. When I look through it, he's getting better.
Good.
A lot better, getting ready this time to actually go for finance. So that's the basic message, Clifton.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Shantae, why don't you tell us again what your advice is to people who are looking for, women that are looking for some assistance to either start their business or grow it? Because as I look at the SBA website for the Women's Business Center, there are just a ton of resources available that I think are not adequately utilized. But tell us what your advice would be for women and the best way of getting connected with you and nationwide.
I would say my advice would be is to get connected. Studies show that companies that receive counseling and mentoring are more successful. And business is very tough, and it's really tough for a woman-owned business, even in 2022. So I would say take advantage of the resources that are there. They are free or low cost. And it's about building relationships. You come to our organization, as you heard earlier, it's not just about, you're not treated as a number. We look at what's best for you and we connect you to those resources. If we're not able to do it in-house, we look aside and bridge that gap with our other resource partners as well. So get connected. It's about building relationships. When you come in, you're building a relationship with that counselor or that trainer, and they're introducing you to their network. So you can only become more successful as a result. And it shows, the studies show that they're more successful opposed to going at it alone. And you can reach out to our Women's Business Center, any Women's Business Center. You can go to sba.gov and you can search for your local resources and put in your zip code, and it can pull up all of the women's business centers based on your location. But our direct contact is greatlakeswbc.org. And we also have our online portal. If you are interested in training, and you do not have to be in Michigan to take advantage of our training and our resources online, miwomen.com, miwomen.com. Yes.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you too for joining us from the great state of Michigan. We, as you mentioned before, we're not just a local organization. SBA is not local, and the resource partners are not local. We're really national. And when people are thinking about a business, they need to think globally. And also we have a joint sponsor with Comerica Bank. And I would tell you that in my experience with them, just like with everything that you guys have mentioned, it is about building relationships. And Comerica Bank, in our experience, I'm sure, has really focused on not just building the relationship and helping us succeed, but truly helping businesses succeed with their commitment and their involvement in the communities that they serve, as well as other financial institutions as well. So Shantae, I definitely want to thank you for joining us from the great state of Michigan and being a part of the Empower Series community. So again, my appreciation is just words cannot express it.
Yes.
And then For you, Patrick, I want to thank you also for joining, and I want to hear your final comments as well, and the best way for people to stay connected to you, as well as the other organizations. You may have mentioned some of this before, but what would your closing comments be to inspire aspiring veterans who have an idea that want to start a business or grow a business?
Well, I would just mirror the comments that we've already heard on the call, but I'll emphasize it by saying this. Don't just connect to a resource. Connect to all of your resources, because what you'll find, particularly if you're a woman, the Women's Business Center is familiar with specific women resources that SCORE or SBDC or the VBOC may not be familiar with. The Veteran Business Outreach Center is familiar with veteran and military spouse resources that SCORE, Women's Business Center, and the SBDC may not be familiar with. So regardless of what, if you are a veteran or if you are a woman and you connect to SCORE and you connect to SBDC or PTAC, connect to all of your resource partners and figure out which one of these resources is the one that you need at this day and time. Because today you need SCORE to help you get through this, and tomorrow you need SBDC to help you get access to capital. And the day after that, you need the Women's Business Center to help you get access to this specific women's initiative. And because you serve, you need access to this veteran and military connected resources the day after that. So connect to every last one of your resources would be my advice to everyone. And even if you're not military connected, you know someone who's military connected. You know a veteran or you know a military spouse. Open up your mouth and let them know that these resources exist to them. And then the final thing that I would say is think of the SBA the same way that you think of life insurance and health insurance, right? You can't get insurance when you need it. You can't wait until you need insurance to go out there and get it. Don't wait until a disaster comes along for you to all of a sudden decide if you want to connect to an SBA resource partner. Connect to the SBA resource partners today. Build those relationships so that as your business moves and changes and grows, you already have relationships within the SBA system and you're familiar with all of the different resources and all of the different tools and all of the different partners that are in that system, and you can more smoothly walk through and transition through that process, whether there's a disaster or not. You want to access and know about the SBA resources. So as everyone has mentioned, the best way to connect with us is at sba.gov/VBOC. You see it there in my background, VBOC. sba.gov/VBOC, or like everyone else here, go to sba.gov and a link across the top of the page says local resources. Click on that link, go down, put your zip code in the drop box, and you can find every last one of your local resource partners. My advice is, as soon as you get off of this call, go right now to sba.gov, go to local resources, and make your own little Rolodex of all of your SBA resource partners so you know who they are. That's what I got for you.
I love it. A call to action. I'll tell you this. So again, there's a gentleman who spoke at my program called his name was Dr. George Frazier, and he talks about how business, whatever business you're in the business of building relationships, no matter what that is. So you make a good point, Patrick, about build those relationships now with counselors, with the other business resource, SBA resource centers, build those relationships with individuals, because every business is about that, whether it's your employees, your vendors, your customers, your other competitors. So I might just end this program with an excerpt from that program. But before we end, words cannot express my appreciation to you. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your life to pour into the Empower Series community. And I will be getting in touch with you again to see if we can do a deeper dive to showcase your organization and how people can utilize your organization to not only start a business, but to have their existing business thrive. So thank you very much. I want to thank all of the listeners today for you spending your time and your most precious resource, your life, to get information. Our intent is that we give you hope that you can achieve whatever idea or vision you have, that you can achieve your goal, that you will be educated and inspired to take action and stay connected to the people here that have poured into you today. So thank you. I want to thank Comerica Bank, thank AE Media Group for your contribution, because without your resources, we couldn't be doing what we're doing today. And until we meet again, I would like you to be empowered and inspired to thrive.
Why? Because all of life is about relationships. All of life is about working with and through other people. There is no success that you can attain, sustain, or maintain on your own by yourself in a vacuum. It is just not possible, especially if you are in business. Most of us here are in some sort of business, whether we are employed by someone else, or we are an employer, or we're working for ourselves. We're in some form of business. So in case no one has ever told you this, let me tell you this. Business is about relationships. Without relationships, you have no business. Without relationships, you have no business being in business. In fact, the business you're really in is in the business of building relationships. That's the business that you are in.
Thank you for watching our Empower Series YouTube video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit the subscribe button below, as well as the little button to be notified the next time we upload our video. Until then, stay connected with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever your social media flavor is. Inspire the world to thrive. See you soon.